a show. It's a podcast show. Welcome to the Julie Cross Podcast Show. Empowering, energising and entertaining. Hi friends, Julie Cross here. Welcome to the podcast show. I just want to share some lessons I learned from a horse riding experience I've had this year. Many of you may know that I often go hiking every year. I start my year off with a hike. When we're challenged physically, we get challenged emotionally and we grow in all kinds of wonderful ways. Adventure is so good for our spirit and our soul and to wake us up, and putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable and challenging is so good for our growth and stretching us to grow even more. So this year for us it was horse riding. So we went on a 2-night, 3-4-day horse riding adventure. And I don't horse ride. I mean, I've been on horses. Yes, of course, I've been on horses. I grew up in the bush and, you know, Dad used to put us on Sue Baby, our horse at the time, and lead us around the yard. I haven't been mustering or herding cattle or anything like that, and I've visited friends and perhaps done a bit of a clip-clop horse ride. But no, I don't horse ride. Can't remember the last time I've been on a horse. It's been ages. So, yeah, let's go on a horse ride. That's a really good idea. So how do you prepare for a horse ride? Well, like all in life, they can only prepare so much and then you've just got to get in and do it. So I didn't really prepare very much. My sister-in-law that went on the horse ride too, she actually got herself a saddle seat for the office. So it's like a seat that you sit on like a saddle. Oh my gosh, that just cracked me up. She'd ride up to people when they come into reception, I guess. I don't know if she listens to my podcast. But I didn't, I didn't sort of prepare for it all. I do, Pilates, I figured my core would have to be strong and but then you've just got to throw yourself into it, and that's life as well. You prepare as much as you can for life and its challenges, whether that be work or emotional challenges, and then you throw yourself into it. And so we did that. So we threw ourselves into it. We go down and there was my sister-in-law, myself, so I think it was 5 of us on the trip. And then we had our leader, our tour guide, the guy that owned this property in the Snowy Mountain countryside, and he owned this property and he took these tours out, and he was an older fella. Justin was his name. And so the first thing that happened, of course, is we got all our equipment right. So we made sure we had the right boots and the right gear, and so that we were comfortable, but also that we were protected and safe. And that's how we go through life too. We make sure that when we're embarking on something, whether it's a new career, a new job, we make sure that we've got the right talents, the right skills, the right education. We prepare ourselves with the right equipment. And then once again, then you get to it. And then we met our horses, and we were all introduced to our horses, and they'd asked our horse riding experience before we got there, so that we were teamed up with horses that were good for us. And that's, when you look at teams, we look at the dynamics of our team to make sure that we're putting people together that are going to work well together, etc. And every family's got their dynamics as well that we have to manage. And so we were paired up with our horses, and that was Justin selected. He thought the horses that were best for us, and so we went to met our horses. I had Fast Eddie, and so then you bonded with your horse. The next thing was that you were to saddle up your horse, and part of that was the brushing of the horse. But you see, this isn't just about doing the process and then making you do that. It's about you bonding with your team. These horses are now on our team, so we have to bond with them. And we're also leading the horses at some point, but at other points they're leading us. So you have to form trust, you have to form a bond, and that's true in any leadership role. We have to be able to do that. So we would brush the horse, and then the horse would get to know us and trust us, and then we would saddle up the horse. So we did all that, and you have to follow strict rules. You can't get creative with this bit. You can't saddle up the horse in your way because you want to do it a certain way because you think it would be better. You have to trust at this point that I don't know how to saddle up a horse, and I will have to trust Justin and the instructions that he's giving me. So there's a time to be creative and be out there and wanting to do something different. But there's a time where you've just got to follow the instructions because this is how it's safe and this is what needs to be done. And there's lessons for all of us in that as well. And so off we go. And in the first few hours, Justin really did, as a leader, watch us and get to know even when we weren't realising what he was doing, get to know each of us and our style and our ability by just observing us in action, because we can tell him all we want, how good we are or how experienced we are or we're not, but it looks very different in real life, and especially too because not everybody has done a horse ride in those conditions. It's very mountainous. You're going up these steep hills and then down these steep inclines on uneven ground through bush. So not everybody has ridden in those environments. And so as a leader, it was his job to really observe us and see where we were at, to know the sort of adventure and the trails that he would take us on. And so, in reflection, I noticed that he very much did that on the first day and was very observant. And we were getting to know our horses. And it was interesting for me because when you're hiking, you only have you to think about really in your head. I mean, we have each other around us and there's the dynamics of the group, and that is all relevant. But when you hit tough times, it's just you that you've got to manage, really. And, for me, I break away from the group and I listen to the self-talk in my head. But when you're on a horse, you're also dealing with all the horse's personalities, which was really interesting for us. So it wasn't just about, so I might feel like I'm a bit of a leader and when I hike, I might want to walk out to the front. But if you're on a horse that doesn't want to be out there, then you kind of got to take that into account. And we really found that that was the case because Kath, our most experienced rider, she was on a horse called Mustang Sally, and Mustang Sally did not want to be out, have other horses behind her. She didn't like that. So Mustang Sally wanted to hang out the back. And then my horse, Fast Eddie, did not want Jet going past her all the time. Jet ski. So no, Fast Eddie and Jet ski were always competing. And then so I'm suddenly having to pull my horse back. So you suddenly find that there's a lot more involved than just managing yourself. You're suddenly managing the horse and their personalities as well. And so it is with leaders. You're not just managing you and your energy, you're managing the energy of the people around you as well. And we need to be very aware of that. And then, of course, what we found was that the horses did really well when everyone was walking along in a line. And we wanted an adventure. We just didn't want a clip-clop, walk in a line kind of adventure. And there was this one incident, and if you've ever been on a horse, you know that when one takes off, they all take off. So we were going up this hill, and we'd all been in the saddle for a little while, so we were feeling a little more confident, but we were all going up this hill, and then we were going up in a line, so the horses were playing the game, but then one horse took off, but then one broke out of the line. And when one broke out of the line, they all broke out of the line. And suddenly I was at the back trying to hang on to this horse. I was going around the bottom of this, I felt like I was going around the side of the horse, back up on the saddle, around the other side of the horse, back up on the saddle, because my horse was trying to get up the hill, but there was horses in front of him, there were bushes in front of him. So we were zigging, we were zagging, he was zigging, I was zagging, then he was zagging and I was still zigging. And I thought I was going to come off for sure, but we didn't. We all got up there and I was a little bit panicked. But we saw, kind of what happens when somebody breaks free, and then suddenly we all see an opportunity for us all to break free. And it was kind of exciting. It's exciting to see that. And it was much more exciting than just clip-clopping and following behind each other. But it's a little less safe, and we need to be aware of that too. It's a little less safe emotionally, physically. So you need to be aware of when's the time to follow along and when's the time to break out. And then I have to say that the leader, Justin, our leader, perhaps didn't choose the right horse to lead. And this was interesting, and it was interesting in how that played out in the group, because Justin chose a horse called Banjo, but Banjo didn't like anybody. Banjo didn't like other horses. If a horse got near him, Banjo would bite them. Banjo didn't like people. So if we got near him, he would bite us. So Banjo didn't want to be around anybody else. Banjo really wanted to do what Banjo wanted to do and wasn't really interested in the rest of us. That didn't make it the best horse to choose, because that meant Justin, as our leader, was so busy always trying to manage Banjo that he didn't have time to look after sometimes the rest of his team. And that's really important as leaders too, I think, that we need to be aware of that we're not putting the wrong people in the position so that all our leadership is taken up with managing that one person who we put in the wrong position, and we haven't got time for the rest of the team that need our guidance and our care and our leadership skills as well. So there was a time though where Banjo and Justin did do the right thing, many times, but this one incident where we were actually looking at a wild mob of brumbies and we were just on our horses observing them. And then one of the brumbies started charging at me. And so my horse then reacts, of course, and starts leaping around, and then Justin on Banjo came in and ran and shooed the other horse off and saved me, as he put it, effectively saved me. He was my Prince Charming in that moment. And sometimes as leaders, that is our role, absolutely, because we have the strength, we have the courage, we have the know-how, we have the ability that not all of our team member have. So every now and again, you kind of got to ride through and save them from certain situations. And he did that day for us. And then we also found that, though, there was a couple of moments with us, and one with my horse where the harness came loose on the horse. So I had the bridle on the horse and we were riding through bush, which was raw bushland. So there was no trail. So we were all kind of making our own trail a little bit here. So in this situation, what I learnt was that there are times that you've got to flow, and I just had to trust the horse. There were times I just had to flow and trust that the horse was keeping me safe and knew where to go. And then there were times I had to take over and take control of the horse. And that is once again true too for us in life in all sorts of situations. There is a time to flow and just trust, and then there is a time to pull the reins in and redirect, slow down, and to be the one in control. And you've got to know how to read those times, and it takes a while to get to know that. So we were in this bush, though, and we called it bush bashing, where we were ducking and weaving, we were going in and out of trees and we go over logs, and the horse had to be so careful of where it was putting its feet. We had to be so careful our legs weren't getting hit by tree trunks, and that our eyes weren't being stabbed by branches. We were ducking, we were weaving, and so we had to be really on, and plus trying to stay in the goddamn saddle. And so this was happening, and my horse's harnesses came loose. So we had the bridle on, then the harness came loose, which meant that Fast Eddie had rope flapping around his face, which was spooking him. So he was getting distressed and spooked and trying to move this way and that to get rid of the rope, and I'm trying to hang on and I'm scared. I start pulling my reins up and back. The horse starts wanting to rear, and then Justin starts yelling at me, put your reins down, you're pulling in the wrong direction. If you pull him up, you're going to come off, he's going to rear up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there was a moment of panic. Nobody else knew what to do. But here was the problem. Because Justin was on a horse that he was having trouble controlling because he had chosen the wrong leader in that situation. He had no energy, time or ability to get to me and help me because his horse didn't want to be near my horse. So that caused a situation which could have, been a bad situation. So he had to take all his time to control his own horse before he could get to me, which could have meant that I was in harm's way, and then he got frustrated and yelled at me, which was fine. Now, eventually he did get the horse under control and came to help me. But what this also caused in our group was empathy from my fellow riders who were thinking the same thing. Why doesn't he just get that horse under control and help Julie? And that doesn't earn you respect as a leader. That doesn't earn you respect because everyone could see what was happening here. And so anyway, we got through that situation and it all added to the adventure and fun. I'm just pulling out the lessons from all of this. And this is the other one. We were heading home, and I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse, you know this, but as soon as the horse heads home, it goes faster. Now, isn't that interesting? Because suddenly the horse has the goal in its head. Suddenly the horse is on familiar territory and knows where home is, understands that's where they're heading. They can see the goal. So suddenly, even though they're tired, these horses work so hard taking us up these incredible mountains and down again. But even though they're tired, they suddenly have this renewed energy. And the same is true for us. We need a goal and we need to be able to see it. While the horses weren't sure where Justin was taking them next, they were a little more, they need a little more prodding along the way to get going. But as soon as they could see their goal, as soon as they knew, they suddenly were spirited and had all this energy and enthusiasm. So remember that for us as well, that we need a goal. We need to know, to be able to see it. We need to share that with the team so that they can see and have that energy of knowing where they're heading and that they can see when they're going to reach it. So be aware of that. And then, of course, the other thing that happened, as soon as they started heading home, the horses started going quicker. And Justin had trouble controlling that horse that wasn't the right horse for the job. And so because he had trouble controlling his horse was taking off. And as soon as our horses couldn't see their team members, they had lost sight of the team members, they started getting frantic and going faster and faster and faster. And right now, I've got to tell you, in that moment, I was out of control. I was out of control of my horse. I think we even left over a log. I don't know how I stayed on. I think I must have had Velcro in my bottom at that point, I tell you. So, we need to keep in touch with our team members too. We need to keep supporting our team members, making sure that everybody is with us and everybody sees where we're going, and give them some encouragement along the way. But in the end, I can tell you that after nights sitting around the fire and telling stories of the day, and this is the other thing I got, because I don't have lots of photographs of it, because when you're on the horse, or videos, because when you're on the horse, you have no time for anything like that except to just be where you are. You have to be on the horse, right where you are, looking after yourself and looking after your horse and being aware of what's happening around you. So it was a great experience for really being in the moment. It was the wonderful time of sharing the stories at the end over, around a fire and over these beautiful meals that were cooked on open fires. It was so just woke your soul up. It was such a wonderful thing. And our souls definitely got a bigger workout than our butts. We were a little surprised at how we did so well physically with it, how we did not have sore bums at all. A few sore muscles in places, and that's always happens when you do something different. You work out different muscles and you get to know different parts of yourself. So I highly recommend it, but there's some of the reflections that I have. And of course, we were immersed in beautiful Mother Nature, Snowy Mountain River country, Mother Nature at her beautiful best, which is always so good for the heart and the soul. The more connected you are with Mother Nature, the more connected you are with yourself. And I had the most wonderful time getting to know my horse, Fast Eddie. It was beautiful indeed. Highly recommend it. Thanks for listening.
Love to hear your thoughts about this show, or if there is something that you would love discussed on the Julie Cross podcast show, then please head over to iTunes and leave a review. Love to hear from you.